In this episode, I'm pleased to be joined by Jenn Robb. She's a nurse practitioner and a warrior mom who found herself in the trenches with her daughter Chloe as she went through an incredibly difficult time in her young life. She shares with us their very powerful and moving story, what she learned during that time, and how she's now turned her pain into purpose by helping other moms feel less alone. It's a good conversation. Stay tuned.
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Welcome back to the Gen X Juggler podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I am so glad to welcome our guest today, Jenn Robb, to the Gen X Juggler podcast. She is a nurse practitioner, author, coach, wife, and fiercely devoted mom. She has a deep desire to help women, especially moms, find strength, hope, and purpose in the middle of the hardest seasons of their lives. Jenn Robb is a warrior mom. Welcome, Jenn.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, me too. I read your book. Jenn has a book called Warrior Mom Rising. You can get it on Amazon and you can download it as an ebook on her website, which is warriormomcoach.net. Is that correct?
That's
I want to
right.
make sure I
Yeah.
got that right.
Yep.
Okay. And it is definitely worth reading. I read your whole book and was floored by how much truth is in it, how raw and vulnerable you and Chloe were willing to be in the writing of that book, telling her story and your story and the story of your family. In every life, we have these markers where we have the before and the after, and we mark those times as the most important. Can you tell me about the before, the time leading up to the fire, as you call it?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, so I've been a nurse practitioner since 2012. I mean, we're just a typical everyday Christian American family. Um, my husband and I are college sweethearts. We've been married for 25 years. Chloe is the baby of three. She has two older brothers, so she was fiercely protected by her brothers. Not just her mama, but her brothers as well.
Yes.
Her oldest brother's 20, and then she has a 19-year-old brother, and then she is now 17. But we were just your all-American kind of Christian family. Chloe was always into cheerleading and competitive cheerleading, which is where it started. But she slowly started losing who she was. Like Chloe is the kid that can walk into a room and just light it up. She just has this cute, kind of quirky smile. She's just fun loving. She's just very easygoing. Um, she has a way with animals it's almost uncanny. I call her my little animal whisperer because it's almost like she can feel what the animal is feeling. And so because of her, we have a small, what I refer to as a petting zoo. Donkeys and pigs and goats, and she has 6 dogs, and I mean, it's a zoo.
That's awesome.
But that's how she's always been, right? Just this happy-go-lucky kid. And then we just noticed started shifting. Her light started to dim, and it was becoming more and more obvious that there was something wrong.
I think so many of us don't want to believe it's when our kids go through the moodiness or the quietness or the kind of retreating for a little bit. We, in our hopeful nature, are going, oh, she's just becoming a teenager, going through what she's going through. When did you notice that it was more than just that?
So that's kind of like the tricky part, right, for moms, is because we do know our children, very well. But she was always a lot, and you would just see these slow little kind of things. And at first, her and dad and I, we just kind of dismissed it as the typical moody. She was 12. She was entering kind of that preteen. She started wanting to sit in her room in the pitch dark. Um, not wanting to be super active. Like if we were playing card games, she kind of wanted to not be as present. But the biggest shift for us came, we started to see her grades start drastically lowering. She never really liked school, but she was never one that like struggled in school. And so when she started going from A's and B's into like C's, and I was getting phone calls from her teachers going, "Hey, something's not quite right with her." Um, but the kicker is she started cutting,
Mm.
and she started having, wounds on her arms and on her legs. That was the pivotal moment that we're kind of like, okay, this is way deeper than anything that we could ever even imagine. So it was
Yes.
Christmas Eve of 2020. I had her in a counselor's office.
And that's a really good first step to have someone else come in who's a professional to talk to our kids. And like you said, it's so in your book, it's so important to pick the right professional and leave the wrong one if necessary. So she started going to the counselor, which is what we know to do at first. We're just like, oh, mental health issue, let's get her to a counselor. Um, and how did that play out at that time with the counselor?
So, it's Christmas Eve, right? And so it was, I mean, I remember very distinct, just feeling like just panicked. Just, I have to do something now. Um, I don't want to miss, something else. And so we went to the counselor and we stayed with that counselor for probably about 3 months. But you could start to see that Chloe was just not really in it. I mean, you could see that the counselors would be like, she would be improving. And I'm like, she's not really, because at home, she's still doing those same things, retreating in her dark room, sitting by herself, not really interacting. Her love of cheer, she didn't want really anything to do with it. And you could start to see you could really see the emotional struggle that she was going through. Um, but our kids are smart, and they're very smart, and they're very intuitive and like picking up, the feel or the vibe from the environment. But they're not very good at being able to express what they're feeling. Their little brain
So true.
just are not developed enough to understand everything that's happening. And, I mean, when you have teenage girls, there's all kinds of hormones and, we're hitting puberty and all of these things are happening. So she could not voice how she was really feeling. And for her, that first counselor, she was very, very sweet, but she was just merely putting a band aid over it. We weren't really getting to the root of the problem. But Chloe had also figured out very quickly what to say to that counselor to make her think she was feeling better. And as a mom,
I can understand that.
you have to be willing to kind of ask the hard questions. And sometimes you don't get an honest answer. Chloe would tell me, "Oh, yeah, I feel better." But then that little signs, the little behaviors weren't changing. So it all indicated that she really wasn't feeling better.
Right. I think our kids will sometimes express to us what they know we need to hear, not just flippantly what we want to hear, but they're in tune to us too. And like, I don't want my mom to be worried. So I see that she's concerned. We're doing the work. I want her to know that I wish I was getting better, even if I'm not actually getting better.
100%.
So I can understand. I can totally understand that. How long after having read the book, I know the timeline of events, but how long after that counselor didn't work out did you seek further
So we
help?
stayed with her for probably 3 or 4 months before, I really kind of caught on to this game that Chloe was playing. Um, and then we switched to someone else. And I think one thing that's important is learning how to vet those counselors. Like I've been in medicine for 25 years. And so I know how to ask a question or to look at their credentials and all of those things, right? And that's one thing that I really
Mhm.
want moms to know is that you don't have to stick with the first one, right? The first one doesn't have to be the end all be all, right? And it wasn't just that we were going to
Yes.
counselors. I had Chloe, we were going to psychiatrist, and we started with her pediatrician, and then they referred us to a psychiatrist because pediatricians don't always want to handle mental health issues, right? It kind of gets outside of their wheelhouse. Um, and it was the same thing with the psychiatrist. I changed doctors or psychiatrists several times because every one of them was just wanting to take this pill, take this pill, take this pill.
Mm.
And while I think that there's a place for modern medicine, I mean, I've been in it for 25 years. I feel like we still
Yeah.
weren't getting to the root of the problem, right? And I knew if I really wanted Chloe to heal, we were going to have to get to the root of what was causing her anxiety, the depression, the self-harm. We were going to have to keep digging. And that's exactly what we did. Changing psychiatrists, changing counselors again. And sometimes, I mean, I've had moms say to me, well, that's really hard because your kids don't want to talk to other people. But they're more willing to talk to a stranger sometimes than they are to us, right? Because again, it's just what you said.
Yes.
You know, she wants to protect me too. Well, I don't want her to protect me, right? Like I would rather get to
Right.
the root of it and deal with it. And my whole goal as a mom is to protect her. And I don't know that that's like a conscious thing that they think like, oh, I want to protect my mom, but
Yeah.
they do it because they love us, right?
Yes. Yes.
And we changed, and Chloe started to kind of come around, and then we had the moment where she was finally able to tell us what had happened, and that was that she'd actually been sexually assaulted by another student, another peer.
Mm.
In that moment, like as a mom, you just feel just overwhelmed and guilt because you're like, how did I miss this? How did you, how did it happen? All of these things because Chloe was the baby girl. I mean, we didn't
Mhm.
let her do, we were real protective of her. I mean, especially with her two brothers. Um, but it was kind of in that moment that we knew, okay, so not only is this causing her great deal of anxiety and depression, but we're going to have to even go deeper because now we have trauma that's not only, it's causing her to have PTSD, and all of these things are happening at the same time.
Mhm.
So that's when I really kind of went on a search and I found a wonderful lady named Stephanie. And she was trained in adolescence, but she was also trained in trauma relating to the adolescence, and then also cognitive behavior therapies that ultimately is what really I think was a huge turning point for Chloe.
Oh, I'm so glad that you found her. Finding that perfect person is everything in a situation like that, and that she could deal with the root of the trauma
Mhm.
and help Chloe walk through that is amazing.
But as a
So
mom, you don't have to just take whatever they say, right? Like
that's true.
what is so important is learning to advocate for your child and to become their voice because they're not their voice. They don't even know what they're feeling, much less what they need. And so it's okay as the mama to have to keep pushing and to keep searching for those answers and to digging a little deeper into someone's background. And I've said this before, and one thing that I think that Stephanie did that was very unique was she had an interview with me before she ever met Chloe.
That's so good.
So she got kind of the how I was feeling, the backstory. She got to understand where we were coming from, what we had done, as opposed to just jumping in with Chloe and then Chloe being like, "Hey, I'm fine." Um, she got to hear it from an adult so that she could better position herself in order to help Chloe.
There was a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in doing it that way, getting the adult perspective on the child's situation because you do know your child better than anyone. And that's a great approach. That's something that when we're looking for help for our kids, we should definitely look for as a green flag.
Right. Yeah. But, and it doesn't just have to be help for them. It's sometimes I think even as moms, we need help in those moments, right? And that may mean that you need a separate counselor for you that's separate of Chloe or your child because their mental health, they have to deal with it too, and they have to struggle and work through their issues. But sometimes having someone that can help you and better prepare you for what is, coming and how they're going to respond to treatments, that can be helpful as well.
Absolutely. And like you said, self care isn't selfish. We have to fill our cups in order to have anything to give and be a good example to our kids to say, you know what, I also need help.
Right.
So it's not weakness that makes you need to see a counselor, it's the strength to get what you need to get you through.
Right.
We're always an example for our kids.
And they're
no matter
watching.
what's going on. They are watching.
They're watching.
I love your example that you put in the book of refining by fire. And when you guys went to see the glass blower,
Yeah.
could you tell me more about that? I just think that paints such a beautiful picture of what actually happens to us when we go through the most difficult times.
That we took a trip to Park City, Utah, and as we do as a family, we've always tried to travel once in the summer and then once usually around Christmas time. So part of the thing growing up is that yes, they got some gifts, but we also traveled to give them experiences and to really fortify that bond between us as a family of 5. And so I always wanted unique experiences. And I personally have always been obsessed with glass blowing. And so we actually took them to a place in Park City, Utah, where they got to actually glass blow. Um, and if you've ever looked at that, they take just broken shards of glass of different colors. They mix them together and you can make some really beautiful things, but they put them in a fire that's 2000 degrees. Like it literally is so hot that if you're standing too close and you don't have safety goggles on, it could melt the contacts in your eyes.
Yes.
And Chloe, like I remember watching her face, she just was glowing because she was fascinated by this process and she was getting to make her own beautiful bowl and it had all these beautiful colors in it and we still have it on display. We have it sitting out in our house but through that I've learned that he refines us too, right? And I think the biggest thing that I want mamas to know is there is a purpose in your pain. We don't always know what that purpose is. We don't understand why things happen to us or why they happen to our children. But there is a purpose in the pain. And sometimes, we may not know it on this side, of heaven. We may
Yeah.
just not know. But one thing that I do know is that God was putting us through that fire to refine us, but not only to transform Chloe, but to also transform me, to learn 100% dependence on him. And at some point I had to surrender Chloe to him. And I'll tell you, the moment that happened was April 4th of 2023. We had come back from vacation, in December, everything, I thought we were on an upward track. We had decided to pull Chloe out of the public school system because it was just adding to her anxiety. She was homeschooled and she looked like she was making the upward trajectory of we are on the road to healing. And even Stephanie thought we are doing great. But Chloe was still dealing with what I refer to as her demons, right? The noise in her head. And one day she was at home. She was supposed to be doing her schoolwork. I had gone to work. Her brothers were at a school like right up, literally like 3 minutes from our house. And she decided to break into a liquor cabinet She broke 2 locks to get into that cabinet. And as a mama, when your instincts, something's not right. You have to trust your instincts. I kept call
Yes.
her and check on her, and she wasn't answering. I think I called her like 50 times. And I finally told my boys, go home. Do not pass go. Do not go out the front door. Just find a door, and I need you to go. And they got home, and the oldest one found her unresponsive, laying face down in her bed with her face buried in a pillow in a pool of vomit.
It is so scary.
And he calls me and he says, Mom, she's unresponsive. Those are the words that you don't want to hear as a mom. And so he called 911. He finally gets her to arouse, get her to the hospital. And they, of course, start all their testing because at this time we didn't even know what would really happened. But when they started doing their testing, the doctor came in and said that her alcohol level was 4 times the lethal limit. Not the legal,
Oh
the
my goodness.
lethal limit.
The
And Chloe-
lethal
yeah,
limit.
Chloe is very tiny. I mean, she's 5 foot tall. She's 100 pounds. She's a competitive cheerleader. But that was when we realized that she'd broken into the liquor cabinet that we had put 2 locks on. And it was in that moment, I was going to do everything in my power to make her better. I was going to have to, if it was my willpower to wheel to her, that's what I was going to do. But it was also in that moment of sobbing and crying and realizing that she is hurting so badly that God said, Jen, you're going to have to let me have her. Surrender her to me. And that is hard as a mama because I'm going to tell you what, I am a control freak. I am OCD to the nth degree. And I am used, as a nurse practitioner, I am used to being in control of those situations and how the outcomes, I mean, I can
Yes.
save people's lives in the hospital, and for sure I can save my daughter. But it was in that
Yes.
moment that God said, she's not yours. She's mine.
Mm.
And as much as you love her, I love her more. Every time I talk about it, it just makes me cry. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, she's yours. I don't know how to help her anymore because she's hurting so badly. And I need you to help her. And it was that
Doesn't
moment that began kind of our transformation and even her own healing, right? I mean, she was at rock bottom. And for her, there was nowhere else to go but up. And she started, kind of finding her way back to God, through lots of prayer. My husband and I were praying for her all the time. And that he is the reason that she is here. And I have no doubt that that girl is anointed, and someday she'll tell her side of the story. But right now, I want mamas to know that there is hope, right? But we have to sometimes do the hard things, and the hardest things for us as a mama is to let go and to let
is the
God
truth.
do what God needs to do in order to make them who He designed them to be.
Yes, that's powerful. And you're right, so hard to do, but that moment of surrender is when things start to change. And now you are out here advocating and encouraging other moms, women in general, especially moms who go through the hardest times in their lives. And your book is filled with wonderful tools, encouragements, truths that we need to see when the noise gets too loud in our mommy minds. The guilt, the lies, the inadequacy.
But that's just
And
it.
you
It's all
really show
lies,
us.
right? It's the enemy trying to get
That's
at
right.
us. And and to make us feel that we're not worthy and we are not fit to be their mama. But God didn't make a mistake when he made us their mama. We are their
That's
mamas
right.
for a reason. And it's
That's
because
right. I'm
God
having
knew
goosebumps right now.
before God knew that we were the mamas for that child and that we are made and made right for them. And God, I feel like gives us a voice, and you know your children, you know how they are, you know their little quirks and their idiosyncrasies. And sometimes it's when those things are not quite right that we go, oh man, we might be facing something, and it's okay. Like it's okay in those moments. But the deal is you have to get back up. You can't let the enemy win, right? With the guilt and the shame
Right.
and the feeling that you're not good enough to be their mom. That's lies.
That's exact that's exactly right. And I think so many of us moms have had those moments where we've walked through something difficult with our kid that we didn't really know what to do. We wanted to help them so badly, but didn't know what to do. And immediately we start hearing those lies of, if only you were a better mom, if only you had seen this sooner, if only you had been perfect, this would not have happened. And like the point you make in your book, it's God wants us to lean on him for our strength because he has, in our weakness, he is strong. And he does come through and he is always with us, even when we don't feel it. And he takes us through those hard times, and leaning on him takes the burden off of us.
That's right.
He will convict, but he will not shame.
No, and we are not perfect. We
Right.
are humans, right? I mean, being a mama is hard. We are in charge of
So hard.
everything, right? I mean, it all defaults to us, right? We work, we're taxi drivers, we take care of the houses, we get the kids to everywhere they have to be. We do all of these things. And in those moments, you're not going to be perfect all the time. So beating yourself with the what ifs, which I was there. I did that. Like, well, what if I had seen this? What if I didn't let her do this? What if But God says, Jen, you you're not in charge of all of those things. I am. And he can put those broken pieces right back together. So you have to just get back up. When the enemy tries to knock you down, you just get back up and you keep fighting another day. You just keep stepping into God's grace and God's mercy and putting your faith in him that he is going to carry you and your child. And it doesn't always have to be mental health. I mean, there's lots of burdens that our children face today, right? For us, that's what the struggle was the mental health, the anxiety, the depression. But it doesn't always have to be in that. It could be in your child that's ADD or ADHD and they're struggling in a different way. I mean, there are so
Absolutely.
many things that we face as mamas, but we can't fix everything. Sometimes we just have to lean in on God and listen to his voice and just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. But always you're getting back up and you're fighting another day.
That is exactly true. And your book, Warrior Mom Rising, lays out a battle plan to do just that, whether it's mental health, learning differences, things going on at school that are just stressful, whatever it is. Our kids are inundated with way too much these days. And whatever it is that they're going through, in that book, you do lay out a perfect battle plan for us to advocate for them and keep our strength and our hope and our purpose alive. And I recommend any mom who's going through it right now, who's in the fire, to read that book. I know it can be downloaded from your website, warriormomcoach.net. It's on Amazon. And I'll link both of those in the description for people to
Yeah. And if they
access
have
easily.
Kindle, it's actually free to download on Amazon right now with Kindle.
Wonderful. Oh, grab it. Grab it, ladies, grab it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So now you've expanded into coaching.
Mhm.
You've taken your pain and turned it into purpose. Can you tell me about how you got started in coaching and what that has looked like so far?
My heart in writing the book is I really just want mamas to understand that you didn't it's not your fault. You didn't miss anything, right? There's always going to be storms because life is going to life no matter what we do, right? I mean, it's just not, no matter how perfect we think we have it all planned out and boxed out, that's life is going to life.
It
But
sure is.
what I want to help mamas do is because I remember being in that lonely place. If we can't tell anybody, we don't want to talk about it, right? Especially because of social media, like nowadays, everybody has to have it picture perfect. But at the end of the day,
Oh, yeah.
we're not perfect. And I want to help mamas understand you are not alone. There is somebody that has been there, that has walked through the fire, and we've come out on the other side. That's why I've started coaching women because I don't want women to go through this alone. I mean, we were the all American, typical Christian family, and I remember like we didn't talk to anybody about it because there's such a stigma, especially with mental health, right? And sometimes in
Yeah.
the Christian space, I feel like there's such a stigma, like if things are going wrong, like you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to tell
Right.
anybody.
Because are you right with the Lord
Right.
if things are not
Right.
going perfect? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and you
That's
don't, the
hard.
fear of judgment, right? Like, well, what
Yes.
did you miss? I mean, how would you let that happen to your child? And those are
Hmm.
things that we didn't want to talk about. So we walked through that season, feeling alone. And I don't want mamas to feel that way. Plus, I understand how medicine works. I understand the counselors. I understand therapy and all this stuff. So it's like, if I can help you and be a resource to teach you how to advocate for your child, not all mamas have a super strong personality, right? Some mamas just take everything that a doctor or somebody says as the gospel truth. And the reality is sometimes it's just not. And I want mamas to feel empowered. I want mamas to know that you can show up and you can show up strong. You can take care of yourself. You have worth and you are deserving of all the things too. And through that, you
Absolutely.
can transform into somebody who God designed you to be. Then you can thrive in that as well, right? That is my heart and my goal is to teach them and to be someone that can be the empathetic and the sympathetic ear and still teach them ways to overcome and to thrive in different seasons of life.
That's so important. And especially in our generation, I think Gen X, especially, it's difficult for us to ask for help.
Oh, 100%.
But this reminder is just so hard. But this reminder that community is where it's at, lifting each other up. God put you in a unique situation with a medical background and then brought you through your fire to be on the other side and be able to bring all of this to the women who need it. And there are so many of us who need exactly what you have to offer. And I just encourage surrender in them as well to be willing to ask for help and start thriving again, like you said. I appreciate you coming on today, Jen. You have given us so much to think about. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that this is going to benefit so many people.
Thank you.
And make sure you reach out. You can contact Jen through warriormomcoach.net. Like she said, her book right now is free to download on Kindle. It is very worth the read. It doesn't take a really long time. You don't have to commit a lot of time to it. It is laid out perfectly, just a wonderful battle plan. And she shares her story and Chloe's story in the book as well.
Yeah.
This has been such a valuable conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, transformative.